Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking everything true crime. So if you are stopping by for the first time, hey, welcome. Hi, nice to meet you. I hope you enjoy today's case coverage and consider subscribing to the channel and checking out future videos. And for all of my returning 10 to Lifers, welcome back. So happy to have you guys here with me today. Boy, do we have a case to go over. I mean, this is one we've been talking about on this channel for quite some time, but there have been huge breaking updates this week in this case, and so many of you guys are just like sliding into my DMs being like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you hear this? So I wanted to jump on here, give you a total overview of the updates, the case itself, and you know me. You know I like to sleuth, so even when these updates came out, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit more digging. This means that there's got to be documents, there's got to be paperwork filed. I need to figure out what other information is out there that is not being massively reported. And boy, did I find some information. So if you haven't guessed by now, today we're talking about the case of 26-year-old OnlyFans model Courtney Taylor Clenney. And she has officially now been charged with the murder of her boyfriend, Christian Bombshell. If you have been following along with this case on this channel, we have done maybe like probably like 3 or 4 videos, short ones, about this case, because we talked about the incident itself and when it first occurred. And then as I started doing deep dives and digging into Courtney's past, some of the interviews with friends, things like that, I made some little update videos along the way. So what I decided I'm going to do is I got a lot of feedback from many of you. This last video I did a couple weeks ago with a different case, the Turpin case, where I decided to include the original video and the backstory of the case at the front of this update video, so that those of you who have not been following along or don't know all of the inner workings of this case and some of the actual true, gross, grimy details that we were able to dig out, it'll give you a full comprehensive overview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include those videos in the beginning, and not all of it, just like snips here and there that really just illustrate the whole story as we come across. And if you've already watched all of those, just fast forward to when you see me in green again, and that's when we'll be talking about the updates. But I wanted to just house all of the information in one place because it is a pretty complex case. It's like, not only is there the murder itself, the incident that took place in the apartment, but then there is, a side story here of some other stuff that was going on with Courtney. There is some shady stuff regarding, in my opinion, I should say, regarding her mom and what happened that day. There's just like a few different pockets, so I'm going to just like streamline it so it's all together here. So we have all of the information for this case, start to finish. And then, as I mentioned, we will go into all of the updates that are happening this week. Some new bombshells, new explicit footage, some really odd tactics from her attorney, and a huge and unsettling revelation about the night of the murder itself. We have got a lot to discuss. So guys, let's jump right in.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
So Christian Bombshell is a 27-year-old man who lives in Miami. And according to his friends, Christian is caring, has a great spirit, super high energy, bright, intelligent, and really would just put a smile on anybody's face who he met. And Christian's girlfriend's name is Courtney Clenney. Now, she's also known as Courtney Taylor. That is like her stage/social media name. And Courtney's 25 years old, and she is a social media influencer. She also creates content on OnlyFans, and she has over 2 million followers on Instagram. So, like a social media maven, social media little princess. I don't even know what you would call her. So friends say that Christian recently moved to Miami and was living with his girlfriend Courtney at One Paraso. I don't know if I'm saying that right, guys. I don't know how to do the fancy talk. But anyways, this building is a luxury waterfront high-rise building in Miami. It is beautiful. These like penthouses are absolutely stunning. It is just luxury to the max. So life seemed great. These beautiful people, this beautiful house, this beautiful love story, it all looked great, right? But if we all know one thing, it is that social media is the highlight reel. It is not the reality. And this seems to be a case of that once again. Because from the outside, it appeared that this couple had it all. Love, looks, money, social media fame. But behind the filtered curtain, things were much, much darker. And on Sunday, April 3rd, Christian was found dead. Although the life that the couple portrayed on social media was filled with carefully curated photos and matching high-end designer outfits, and what really appeared to be a modern-day love story, what was really happening behind the digital facade that they were putting out there was a relationship filled with darkness, and a relationship that was reportedly very volatile. So according to close friends, the couple's relationship was far from perfect. In fact, it was reportedly filled with intense arguments and even some physical disputes. But were they mutual disputes, or were these intense altercations one-sided? Because mutual friends of the couple have said that they've seen Courtney put her hands on Christian, but they have never seen him put his hands on her. So on Sunday, April 3rd, police responded to a 911 call from Courtney around 5 p.m. at that luxury apartment building in Miami, Florida. And when first responders arrived, they found Courtney's boyfriend stabbed once in the shoulder. First responders transported Christian immediately to a nearby hospital, but unfortunately, he ultimately succumbed to his injuries, and he was pronounced dead. But what happened here, guys? Did a verbal argument really escalate so quickly that it resulted in this man's death? And if so, how and why? Neighbors in the building reported that the couple had a long history of domestic disputes, and that local police often had to come and get involved. So much so, in fact, that apparently Courtney had called the police at least 7 times in the last month. A new video has emerged that shows the bloody aftermath of that domestic disturbance in Miami between this young couple, which ended with one man being stabbed to death and his girlfriend completely covered in blood. In this footage, you can see 25-year-old Courtney wearing sweatpants and a bra, handcuffed and soaked in blood as she sits on the floor of their luxury apartment talking to the police. And this was after that physical confrontation between the two of them turned deadly. In this video, Courtney's blood-soaked bra and sweats are also identical to what Courtney was wearing earlier in the day when she posted a video of herself on her Instagram Live.
Where do I see myself in 5 years? That's a good question. Okay. I see myself with say 2 children. I would say at least 1 kid. In like 5 years, I want 1 kid. Should I have a daughter or a son? I want like a kid. A few houses. Business going on. Maybe, probably not OF.
And in this footage from the apartment after the stabbing, to me at least, Courtney doesn't appear to be emotional or upset. She isn't crying, she isn't hysterical, and she honestly just kind of relatively seems calm. And perhaps she is in shock and distraught by what just happened and, everything real, like the reality setting in. But also, is it possible that maybe she doesn't feel remorseful? How did the mother of Christian Abumsali find out that her son had been killed? Well, according to a recent interview with Dr. Phil that aired earlier this month, Christian's mom, who works as a nurse, received a phone call on Monday, April 4th, 1 day after Christian's death, notifying her of her son's status as an organ donor. And this was the first time that she heard anything about the incident.
To you.
Yes, I was at work, and the lady said that she's calling to know if I'll give them the permission for Toby to donate his organs. And I'm like, what? Donate what? I told her, I said, ma'am, I don't understand what you're saying. And she asked me, are you saying that the medical examiner's office has not contacted you? And that was on Monday. I gave my sister the number to call, and that's how we got to know that Toby was killed. The way the news came to me was very, very inhuman and devastating. And we got to know that it happened on Sunday.
Can you imagine that for a moment? You had no idea your son was injured, murdered no less, and you're receiving a phone call a day later saying that he's an organ donor. Imagine the thoughts that would be racing through your mind. Christian's father, Christopher, a technician, received a call from his oldest son, Jeffrey, while at work, which was unusual, telling him to come home because Christian is dead. So there's another entire side to this case, though, and that is Christian, because old tweets shared by Christian have now emerged, and they are understandably upsetting quite a few people. In these old tweets shared by Christian, he called out Black women multiple times and said some truly degrading and unacceptable things about them. In one tweet, he said, "White tatties, boobs, are greater than Black ones." In another, he says, "The way Black girls disgrace themselves on TV," in like a judgmental narrative. Then says, "I can't believe one of my friends thinks I talk to Black girls when I don't." Another tweet of his says, "Full of ignorant Black women." And then another, "Once again, I'm tired of these Black girls in my government class." Finally, another tweet, "One of my friends said, Black girls are born knowing how to shake their ass. And I replied, honestly, I don't care. They're not my type." Now, many people in the public, women particularly, are calling for Black women not to stand behind what happened to Christian, and calling Christian out really as going off on social media, belittling these Black women while praising white women, only to then be killed by a white woman, his girlfriend. And in one of the many tweets that are summarizing that sentiment, it reads, "I just got one thing to say about this Christian Toby Bombshell situation. Do not call us. Everybody wants a Black woman to rally behind this Black man that was killed by the very woman he craved. Call his community, not us. He don't want nothing from us. Respect his wishes." And in that, she has embedded some of those tweets that I read to you. So a lot of a divide out there in the public right now. Now, were his tweets absolutely disgusting? Yes, hands down. Although that does not mean he does not deserve justice if he truly was murdered in cold blood. Courtney Clenney, also known as Courtney Taylor on Instagram and through her OnlyFans account, is known for partying. The 25-year-old has 2 DWI arrests in her home state of Texas as well. In 2015, at just age 18, she got her first DWI, and she was sentenced to 3 days in jail. An arrest warrant for a 2020 incident shows that she crashed a white Mercedes into another car a few miles from the riverfront apartment complex where she lived at the time. And when the police came, they found a partially empty 750 milliliter bottle of tequila in the front seat. On a roadside breath test, she registered a blood alcohol content level of 0.300, more than 3 times the legal limit. Her lawyer declined to comment on this DWI arrest, saying, "It's not because I'm trying to hide anything, I don't know. I haven't talked to her about those matters and it's not relevant, but are there signs of substance abuse? Yeah, I would have to agree with that." And that is all he said. And I bring this up because it really is going to illustrate and go hand in hand with the story and some would say evidence out there that Courtney does lead a life of not only partying, but reckless behavior, dangerous behavior, and an alcohol-fueled state that could effectively, impair her judgment and her actions and push her to do things. She was 18 years old, had a DWI. She blew a .300, which is a lot of alcohol to consume to blow that amount. So clearly she was intoxicated, heavily so. The New York Post reported that she allegedly has a pattern of being the aggressor in relationships, and that in 2017, a former Mr. Olympia, who was dating Courtney at the time, suffered from a broken jaw. And it's been reported that Courtney may have been the one to cause that fracture. One friend said that Courtney also attempted to stab an ex-boyfriend, and the lawyer for Christian Bombshell's family said that he also interviewed an ex-boyfriend who claimed that Courtney tried to stab him twice.
A woman who insists on maintaining her anonymity claims she knew the couple. She says she's coming forward to tell the story of what she says she witnessed while spending time with them. You and your boyfriend did have the opportunity to witness Toby and Courtney together. What did you observe?
In the beginning, they seemed very in love, and, you know, they were having a lot of fun, and a few months in, it turned into something pretty dark. And we knew Toby before he started dating Courtney. So, you know, to see someone like him who was always like bright and like social turn into someone that was like always being pulled away, and you could visibly see like how the relationship started to stress him out.
And who was doing the abusing?
Courtney, 100%.
So it was always her that you observed being abusive to him, not him abusing her?
Correct. It would be something where she would get upset over the smallest things, and then she would have to like pull him outside. And then it always escalated into us hearing her screaming at the top of her lungs. Over time, yeah, we did see some physical violence on her end. With her job, he was catering to her full time, and, you know, not to say that he was miserable, like he had fun traveling and stuff with her, but with that came the dark side of her always like screaming and fighting with him. You can speak to anyone in the downtown scene here that she's worked with or has partied at, and everyone has stories, but she has a past. Unfortunately, this time it went too far, and we never once questioned whether it was a thing of self-defense. We knew there was a lot of violence going on there, and we never thought it would go this far, but there's no question in our mind. Toby was a victim. He was a victim 100%.
Now, this is very concerning because obviously, Christian died from stab wounds. So the fact that she has a history of trying to stab multiple ex-boyfriends, allegedly, is extremely concerning. The couple's friends said that Christian usually downplayed her aggression and he would blame it on her drinking, saying that he was always trying to be patient with her, and he was saying that she's only like this when she's drinking, she's not usually like this, always making an excuse. And the friends would just say, you know, it's not cool, you can't just be getting the crap beat out of you and then excuse it because of alcohol. When Christian was killed, Courtney was due back in court in Texas for that DUI that she got in September of 2020. Additionally, she had a separate lawsuit against her for destruction of property. Now, Courtney's defense attorney is speaking out, and her attorney said that she was a victim of DV and acted only out of fear for her life. And this attorney is quoted as saying, as Courtney struggles with the pain of being a survivor of DV and the aftermath of the events that evening, we ask that the community and Christian's family allow the police and the state to conduct their independent investigation of the events. This is a tragedy for all involved, but it was not criminal conduct, and the investigation will reveal exactly that. In my previous video, we spoke about what some of the friends were sharing, the mutual friends of Courtney and Christian, and how they did have a very toxic and rocky relationship. Well, new information has also surfaced, and the couple had apparently broken up last month, and Courtney's mom came and visited to help Courtney, who was apparently afraid of leaving her apartment because reportedly Christian kept trying to find ways into the building and he would sleep in common areas, and multiple sources said this. Then, on Friday, April 1st, just 2 days before the stabbing took place, Miami police were called to their apartment for a domestic dispute, and police officers noticed bruises on Courtney's arms and legs. However, no arrests were made at that time. And under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, prosecutors must thoroughly disprove a self-defense claim before filing charges or taking a case to a jury. That means that the prosecution has to 100 without a doubt and 100% certainty disprove these self-defense claims that Courtney and her attorney are making if they want to pursue legal action and file charges. Now, Christian's family is absolutely outraged over new footage showing Courtney without what they say an ounce of remorse. In one clip on Friday, April 8th, Courtney can be seen in a Miami bar having drinks with her father, where she's then confronted by somebody who happens to be in the bar as well.
I'll videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, cool. I'll videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah.
We also have learned new statements, not only from Christian's family, but from Courtney's attorney, where he is actually going into much more description regarding the self-defense claims and actually also drops a huge bombshell. So Christian's brother Jeff had said, "It's been a week since my brother was brutally and senselessly killed. Courtney's callous actions have not been met with an ounce of remorse." He also says, "We've seen videos of Courtney kissing dogs while covered in my brother's blood, and also casually getting drinks at a hotel bar days later while my brother lays in the morgue." And a lawyer for Christian's family is saying that Courtney's versions of events was inconsistent and not credible enough to back up her version and her claim of self-defense. Because Courtney is saying that she stabbed Christian after he attacked her, pushed her to the floor, and grabbed her neck, that she had no choice but to then stab him. But the lawyer is saying that her version of events in that story is inconsistent with the evidence. And they also are saying that they want her to be arrested and that the family is absolutely devastated. Christian's family also has been very vocal about Courtney getting special treatment, saying, "The bottom line is clear. Courtney is being treated differently because of her privilege as a wealthy white woman," and that within 24 hours of Christian's death, the detective on the case prematurely concluded that this was not a crime of violence, but the information provided is deficient, and the lack of transparency strongly suggests that foul play is involved. She has no injuries to support her story of imminent danger. And his family is saying, "We have every reason to believe that this death was the result of unwarranted and unprovoked violence, and that they want to see that justice is served." But Christian's older brother Jeffrey has said that he wants a fair investigation of his little brother, whose body remains in the morgue more than a month after his death. A cousin of the family and attorney, Karen, questioned the premature closure of the case that closed less than 24 hours after the killing, saying that prejudging without conducting an investigation is totally irresponsible. And the family lawyer also pointed out that if an autopsy were being conducted, it would not have been completed in just 24 hours.
Contact the detective, and he states that, that he's busy, they don't have any details to give us at this particular moment, that he'll call us back. We call back, I think maybe an hour later, and he was very dismissive. He was like, you guys need to give me time to do my job. We're saying, okay, well, can you just share anything that you know? All we know is that our family member has been killed. And he was just very, very cold. He wouldn't tell us what occurred until finally, when he called later on Monday evening, and he stated that, based on Courtney's reporting that Courtney had killed him in self-defense, and that there was enough evidence for him to, close the case, close the investigation at that particular time.
This was on Monday?
This was Monday.
Within 24 hours?
Within less than 24 hours, he had enough information to conclude that this was a domestic dispute, and based on the reports that he had, that was all the information that he needed.
So Christian's cousin told Dr. Phil what the detectives told her, that Courtney reported to the detectives that she thinks she threw a knife from some distance away and that the knife hit his clavicle, puncturing an artery, and that's how he died. I mean, that reminds me of like one of those axe throwing places where you have to hit the target. Is it likely? Probably not. Is it possible? Maybe. But to say that you're a ways away from somebody and you take a knife and you throw it and it lands, and if it's a sharp knife like that, the fact that it would point and get stuck in an artery and then cause to bleed out, like, if anything, you would think that it would, because the knives are so thin, it would hit and fall out. Like, she would have had to be like a knife thrower, in my opinion. It just does not seem extremely likely, and it really doesn't make sense to me. And so they question this too, saying, is she some sort of professional knife thrower? How does somebody throw a knife 10 to 20 feet away from somebody and that hit ends up being fatal? Probably not. Probably not. But Courtney's lawyer is absolutely adamant that this was self-defense, saying that he believed Courtney was the victim at the hands of Christian. Her attorney also drops a complete bombshell, and he suggested that Courtney may have even been a victim of human trafficking. I can't say that word on YouTube because they're going to flag me, but I hope you know where I'm going with that. Although when the lawyer said this, he did not expand on the claim, but he dropped that, and that is a huge bombshell in this. He went on to say that Courtney had apparently been fighting for her life that Sunday evening during that altercation between the couple, when she then had to stab him to get him off of her. He also says that at the time of the incident, Christian was committing a forcible felony, that he had gained access to Courtney's apartment without her permission, and that he did this on several occasions in the days leading up to this incident. Christian was kind by all accounts. The 27-year-old had a good head on his shoulders and a very bright future. He was studying business and engineering. Meanwhile, Courtney used her Courtney Taylor persona that she had created on platforms like the We in Miami podcast to really brag that she was a white woman who only dates rich, older black men.
I'm Courtney Taylor, and I do OF for a living.
OnlyFans. You got like 1 million followers or something?
2 million.
Damn. You look like the type of girl that only dates like rich guys. Is that true?
No, that's not true. I only date black guys. Especially black guys. Especially black guys. Let me clarify. I only date rich black guys.
Rich black guys. There we go. And you know you're toxic.
Yeah.
You can tell she like black guys. It's like, especially black guys. For all you watching, I'm with it. Do you like to be fully controlled, or do you?
I like to be submissive. Yeah, in the bedroom. Yes. But like in my life, I don't like anybody to tell me what to do.
Yeah, so you only want them to tell you what to do in the bedroom. Other than that, you don't want them to tell you anything.
Right. No, that's exactly it. Yes.
So that sounds like you're a control freak with your relationships. Be careful with this one. She's gonna boss you around like
exactly. Sweet toxicity.
So you only date rich black guys. So like, have you ever dated like any politicians, or only like rappers or athletes, or what kind of rich black guys?
No dope boys, no politicians.
Just strictly athletes.
I mean, well, dabble here, dabble there, a little bit.
Have you ever dated any celebrities?
Dated? Well, I mean, yes.
What celebrities have you dated?
Just like athletes. Jermichael Finley, but don't look him up. Don't look him up. Don't look him up because it's gonna make me look really bad.
How much do you make a month?
A lot.
Yeah, we make good money.
Like you make 6 figures a year.
Multiple six.
And a visitor at their luxury high-rise apartment complex who didn't even know Christian or Courtney recorded an argument between the two of them, where Courtney threatened to harm herself and then Christian attempted to calm her down. And this is what the cousin had told to Dr. Phil, saying that we've located witnesses that police haven't even interviewed yet. During that interview on Dr. Phil with Christian's parents, brother, and cousin, between clips of Courtney's arrogance and Christian's gleaming smile, questions were brought up, such as, if it were self-defense, where is the evidence for that? Another claim from Courtney's lawyer was the involvement of human trafficking. I can't say it here over on YouTube. And the family is quick to point out the absurdity of this claim, saying that she traveled as she pleased and that there is nothing to demonstrate her ever being held against her will, and that they don't have any evidence at all to support that Christian was ever making any money off of her, and that the family actually supported Christian in many ways financially. A friend of his said that she watched him get pulled away, in her words, into a toxic relationship. And Samantha, who's a friend of Courtney's who traveled with her, said that Courtney told her Christian had been stealing from her for quite a few months now. A very interesting claim that, if proven to be true, does point to motive and could negate the self-defense claim that Courtney has going. Okay, so now that you are caught up on all of the details in this case, let's talk about the updates and what just happened this week and some of that additional information that I was able to extract out of the warrants and some of the documents that aren't, massively published out there. So on Wednesday, August 10th, Courtney was officially charged with second-degree murder over the April 3rd death of her boyfriend, Christian Abumsali. She was in Hawaii at the time of her arrest, and it's been reported that she was there seeking treatment in a rehab center for alcohol issues and PTSD stemming from the day of the murder. She is awaiting extradition back to Florida, and I'm unsure if she has been extradited now at this point in time or if she's still in Hawaii. I believe she is still in Hawaii.
From photo shoot to mugshot, Courtney Clenney, a popular 26-year-old OnlyFans model, was arrested in Hawaii on Wednesday, suspected of stabbing her boyfriend to death in Miami back in April.
We are charging 26-year-old Courtney Taylor Clenney with 1 count of second-degree murder in Christian's death. I'm told that she was on a remote island. We felt that the prudent thing to do, that the right thing to do, was to go and get her and secure her presence.
Her lawyer, Frank Pietro, said she was arrested while in rehabilitation for substance abuse and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Now remember, from day one, Courtney and her attorney have insisted that she stabbed Christian in self-defense after he grabbed her by the throat. Her attorney also made allegations that in addition to ongoing DV in the relationship at the hands of Christian, that Courtney was also TRAFFICKED by Christian. I have to spell the word because YouTube flags my ass if I don't. So clearly a very big allegation. And when we first heard this, I was kind of like, whoa, that seems really big. That seems like a huge thing to say. Is it to try to polarize the issue and make people confused? I don't know. Her attorney was quoted saying that Christian was the abuser, the worst kind of abuser, according to him. He said that he would manipulate and abuse Courtney in private when he thought that nobody else was around. Her attorney went on to say that this was absolutely self-defense and that Courtney threw the knife, which killed Christian, across the room from over 10 feet away. Which, like I said before, I don't see how that is possible unless you are like a professional knife thrower. How are you 10 feet away and you throw the knife perfectly to where it lands right in the shoulder and is not only lands and makes contact, but also goes into the skin and punctures the skin enough to bleed out and die? And I think I mentioned it in my earlier video too, like unless it hit the artery perfectly. But I learned more about this in the warrant, so hang on for just a second here. Now, as you saw in my earlier video, many friends of the couple spoke out immediately to say that they never once saw Christian physical with Courtney at all or even overly angry. It's true that many times people aren't privy to what's going on behind closed doors. However, with the amount of people speaking out in Christian's defense at the time, it was enough to make anybody step back and ask, okay, what really is the truth here? Who's telling the truth? Well, we got a glimpse into the truth and what does happen behind closed doors, just one day after Courtney was charged with his murder. On Thursday, August 11th, prosecutors released elevator footage of Courtney and Christian from back of February this year, just 2 months before the murder. In the footage, it shows a very clearly upset Courtney having what appears to be an outburst, kicking and screaming, and seemingly, in my opinion, trying to attack Christian. Something else I noticed in addition to Courtney's outburst and aggression was Christian's demeanor. During the entire video, from what I am seeing, I see Christian trying to diffuse Courtney's anger. He's dodging her hits and trying to push her away from him and doesn't appear to be engaging in any sort of physical reaction to her. And now I can't quite tell, but it does look like at some points he's laughing or smiling, which I would imagine might have angered Courtney even more. But as far as being physical with her, I see him trying to get away from her. As I mentioned in my previous video, the couple had a history of a very tumultuous relationship, including when they were reportedly on and off from January through March of this year. When they broke up in March, Courtney allegedly evicted Christian from the apartment, and then her mother, Deborah, came to stay with her. And we're going to circle back to the mom here in just a bit, so hang tight. Quickly after, the couple ended up rekindling their relationship, and on April 1st, he ended up moving back in. But apparently, arguments began almost immediately, and officers were called that same night that he moved back in, and Courtney reportedly appeared intoxicated when they arrived. However, no arrests were made. But 2 days later, Christian was killed. So, warrants and documents have come out, or, I've dug some of them out, and they outline the details of that fateful day in a clearer way and unfortunately with some pretty disturbing descriptions. It's reported that the day had begun pretty peacefully, with the couple playing with their dogs at home and just relaxing. Around 1:15 p.m., Christian went to the local Subway to get the two of them sandwiches and then returned home at approximately 4:32 p.m. While he was out getting the sandwiches, Courtney posted a video on Instagram in which she appeared coherent and otherwise cheerful.
Where do I see myself in 5 years? That's a good question. Okay. I see myself with say 2 children. I would say at least 1 kid. In like 5 years, I want 1 kid. Should I have a daughter or a son? I want like a kid. A few houses. Business going on. Maybe, probably not OF.
However, 12 minutes after Christian returned home from getting the sandwiches, he was brutally killed. Now, going back to her mom really quick, it's been reported that at the time of the stabbing, which was at approximately 4:45 p.m., Courtney was actually on the phone with her mom, and her mother told police that while she was on the phone with Courtney, she could hear Courtney yelling at Christian repeatedly, yelling, "You're lying, you're lying." The phone then disconnected or was hung up for whatever reason, and Courtney called her mom again at 4:49 p.m. This was after Christian was stabbed, and this call lasted over 7 minutes, lasting over 7 minutes before she even called 911. Courtney finally called the police at 4:57 p.m. to report the stabbing, and she could be heard saying, "I'm so sorry, baby, I'm so sorry, baby," to Christian as she was making this 911 call. When officers arrived, they found Christian in Courtney's arms. The Warrant notes that the amount of blood throughout the apartment and the trails of blood indicates that Christian was bleeding for an extended period of time before police arrived. And I want to just kind of talk on this for a second before I move on, because I want to reference back to the call. She called her mom for 7 minutes before calling 911. Ultimately, Christian was pronounced dead at the hospital. He had bled out. There was tons of blood in the apartment, and they said here in the warrant that it appeared he had been bleeding out for an extended period of time. I don't know, I'm not a medical expert, but I would imagine that had she called 911 earlier, 7 or 10 minutes earlier than she had, instead of calling her mom to probably ask her what to do and how to handle the situation, maybe Christian would very well still be alive because he wouldn't have had those extra 7 minutes to bleed out. It's just unforgivable. I don't know what other word to say. And selfish. So the document goes on to claim that her mom texted her to tell her to mention self-defense and also to advise her not to say anything to investigators without an attorney. But it's unclear if Courtney ever read this text before the police arrived, because when they arrived, Courtney spoke to police, and she told them that she and Christian were arguing and that she grabbed the knife because Christian pinned her against a wall by her throat. However, detectives pointed out in this document that there were no injuries on her, and at no time did she claim that Christian was armed with any type of weapon. So if she were pinned against the wall by the throat, how would she have grabbed a weapon if Christian wasn't armed with one himself? And one of the most telling statements is that Courtney apparently questioned her own actions to police, telling officers at one point, "I do not think that this was, I don't really know. I really don't know if this was justified at all." Well, if you have to ask, it probably wasn't. Now, the knife penetrated Christian's chest for 8 centimeters, and it was pointed slightly downwards. So again, tell me how you could throw a knife from 10 feet away and it could land perfectly and penetrate 8 centimeters. Not very likely. When Courtney was arrested this week, her attorney, of course, still adamantly is defending her. He said, "I'm completely shocked, especially since we were cooperating with the investigation and offered to voluntarily surrender her if she were charged." He added in another statement, "We look forward to clearing her name in court." So Courtney was taken into custody by the U.S. Marshal Service with assistance from members of the Hawaii Police Department. She's going to be given the option to waive or contest extradition when she does appear in court. Her attorney has told officials that she does intend to waive extradition, which would then allow officials to facilitate her return to Florida.
Their relationship on Friday, April 1st, 2022, after her mother left to go home to Texas. At that time, Christian moved back into the apartment. Arguments began almost immediately, with police responding to the apartment. Police reported that Clenney appeared intoxicated when she was contacted on the evening of April 1st, 2022. This was 2 days before the homicide. On Sunday, April 3rd, 2022, the day of Christian's death, events started peacefully with the couple filming themselves with their dogs in the apartment. A key fob for the records showed that Christian left the apartment at 1:15 p.m. and returned about 3 hours later at 4:32 p.m. with sandwiches that he had bought for both of them. So what we've done here now, if you look at the screens, you'll see there a timeline. While you look at it, I'm going to try to go through it because the timing is very important to understand in this case. So at 4:01, Clenney called Christian. Then she goes live on Instagram. And then at 4:33 p.m., she called him again, shortly after posting the video. At 4:33 p.m., Christian walks into the apartment. 10 minutes later, at 4:43 p.m., Clenney called her mother. That call lasted till about 4:49 p.m., just over 6 minutes. At 4:49, Clenney made a second call, almost immediately, to her mother. They spoke until 4:56 p.m., a little over 7 minutes. I think at 4:57 p.m., Clenney calls 911. At 4:57, police officers exit the elevator at the unit. Christian's stabbing must have occurred between 4:33 p.m., when he returned to the apartment with those sandwiches, and at 4:57 p.m., when the defendant, Clenney, called 911. Also, at the same time during that period of time, that being 4:33 p.m. to 4:57 p.m., neighbors began calling the building manager about a disturbance at the apartment. Security called 911 at 4:46, notifying them of the disturbance. 11 minutes later, at 4:57, defendant Clenney called 911 to tell the police that Christian was suffering from a stab wound and needed help. Statement to the police on the date of the incident, Clenney's mother stated she heard her daughter yelling at Christian, remember she's on the phone with her, telling him to leave the apartment, and she heard defendant Clenney saying that Christian was lying. Later, in her what we call post-Miranda recorded statement to the police, defendant Clenney admitted to having caused Christian's injury, also provided several inconsistent accounts about the incident itself. After an argument, defendant Clenney claims and says that Christian shoved her against the wall by the neck, and although he did not actually choke her, then she says he threw her to the ground but allowed her to get up. And it was at that point that defendant Clenney went to a kitchen area and got the knife. As Christian sort of approached her, she threw the knife at him from a distance that she's estimated to be about 10 feet. The police observed no visible injuries, which would have corroborated her account, and she had no injuries.
So, what I can say by these updates is that, first and foremost, I am happy that justice is served. Absolutely. But also, it does appear that this death and murder could have possibly been prevented along the way. Not only getting out of a situation. So if you're ever in a similar situation, just get out, because you never know when it's going to escalate and be too late, regardless what side of it you are on. Truthfully, you don't know if it'll escalate and you will be on the victim and or if you will be the perpetrator. But another thing that stands out to me is not only does this bolster the interviews and the testimony of friends that Courtney was the abuser and Christian wasn't. We now see that through this elevator footage, just, a quick 30-second snapshot in what goes into this relationship behind closed doors. But also, Could it have been stopped along the way? They were so on and off through the beginning of the year. The police were called there just 2 days earlier, and even though there was no sign of anything happening, she was intoxicated. Like, I'm just wondering when it could have been prevented. And the most huge point in that is the 911 call. Waiting 7 minutes to call 911 when your boyfriend is bleeding out because you choose to call your mom instead. And then he bleeds out and dies. It's beyond. And I just feel like when you look at everything as a whole, you couple all of that information along with when she was spotted in that hotel lobby getting a drink with her dad, now in Hawaii, get at a treatment center. Why you have to go to Hawaii, I don't know. Maybe it was a strategy in play behind that. I have no idea. But now she's in Hawaii at a treatment center. She's claiming self-defense. All of these things just kind of lead me to believe that she is very much a privileged girl who is trying to point the finger at everybody else and do the poor me. Poor me, I'm suffering PTSD from this. I'm going to go to Hawaii and go to check myself into a treatment center. Poor me, I was the victim in all of this. Poor me, which I'm not saying that maybe there was an element of DV. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not trying to overshadow that if that is proven to be the case. However, none of this has sat right since the beginning. And it's just, in my opinion, an example of a girl who thought she was young, hot, semi-famous on social media, and could quite literally get away with murder if she said the right thing. And I'm just very happy that justice appears to be being served so that she will be held accountable for her actions and so that Christian's family can get the justice that they deserve for him. And so that he can actually be laid to rest and there can be some sort of closure in all of this. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does at her first hearing, if she waives her right to extradition, what happens there, and then I'm going to follow this trial like glue. So I'll let you guys know as soon as we have updates. Again, the best way to stay notified of updates, if you don't follow along with this channel, is to hit the subscribe button and then turn the notification bell to on, because then it'll just send you a little ding anytime I have a new video that gets posted or I go live with updates on this case. So do that if you have not done so already and if you want to stay notified. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please don't forget to show your support for the channel and give this video a like, thumbs up on your way out. And let me know what you guys think below. Do you think that this was calculated this entire time as far as her story and her attorney's story on how they were spinning this? Do you think that maybe there really was an element of self-defense or DV in the relationship? What do you make of the elevator footage? What do you make of the phone call to her mom? Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. And until the next case, stay safe.